I'm Talia Reese. Thanks for listening. If I were to ask you if you wanted to listen to a disco album that was based on a book from the 1890s, you'd probably say no, but you'd be wrong. I'm of course talking about Jeff Wayne's musical version of The War of the Worlds. This two-disc release from 1978 is a rock opera, that is, he tells a story via a series of rock songs. This album is one of my favorites, and I think you all should give it a chance as well. It may become one of yours. It's a faithful adaptation of its source material, and a great example of how to use music theory. And it still holds up nearly 50 years after it was released. As the title may suggest, it is an adaptation of the 1897 novel The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, and it's a good retelling at that. In case you aren't aware of the book's plot, it goes something like this. Invaders from Mars land their ships in rural England and wage war using their advanced machinery. Human efforts to fight them are pretty much useless, but they're eventually defeated by earthly diseases. There are a lot of themes brought up in the book, theology, morality, and human progress, just to name a few. And while people may disagree on these themes, everyone agrees that it's a thrilling sci-fi narrative. The album tells that story as faithfully as it can, while still making concessions to cope for the new medium. The narrator's brother from the original novel is completely omitted, and there are a few things added to the album as well, such as several character names. The curate is renamed to Parson Nathaniel, and a few new characters are added. The curate now has a wife named Beth. Each of these changes has a specific impetus. The narrator's brother is cut to reduce bloat, and the character names are there to make the story flow a little better. The curate's wife, Beth, is there to make Parson Nathaniel spill his personal feelings a little more naturally than he would have if just the narrator was there, as well as adding a better vocalist for the track, The Spirit of Man. But the story isn't the only thing worth talking about with this album. The music is great, too. It uses several tools to their fullest capacity, one of which is leitmotif. Leitmotif, to paraphrase Merriam-Webster, is a musical theme that's commonly associated with a character or a concept. A good example of this was the Imperial March, written by John Williams for Star Wars Episode 5. According to Valerio Sobrati, when he wrote story music / discourse music for Volume 9 of Music and the Moving Image back in 2016, the Imperial March is always associated with Darth Vader, the villain of the movie. Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds uses leitmotifs to great effect. There are several major leitmotifs, such as that associated with the Martians or that associated with the fighting machines, as well as a few minor leitmotifs associated with things like the red weed and the resurgence of man's life on Earth at the end of the story. There are a few other tools it uses as well. I've noticed that tracks with lower stakes in the story and lower tension tend to be slower in tempo. And Wayne himself admitted to, in an interview with Michael Haig of the website Den of Geek back in 2009, stated that he used more orchestral and classical music tones when writing tracks about the humans, and more electronic and synthetic instrumentation when talking about the Martians. Now, this is a great work musically, but does it still hold up today, or is it steeped in the musical conventions of the 70s? Well, both are true. The album still holds up today, even if it is very 70s, and it has healthy success for something that's almost 50 years old. There was a game released on the PC, and it was reviewed back in 1999 by Trent Ward when he was writing for American gaming outlet IGN. There have been live shows retelling the album's music and story since 2006, as recorded on DVD, directed by David Millay and Steve Nolan. And you can still get tickets to live shows even today, with tickets for the upcoming 2025 tour available on the official website under the Tickets tab. So why is this album still so relevant? Well, it's based on one of the most famous sci-fi works ever, and it has enough musical variety in its tracks that it has something to offer pretty much anybody. And the setting in the 1800s gives it a sort of timeless quality that'll never truly age. So we have a skillful retelling of a famous sci-fi book that still holds up today, sounds like a recipe for success. But in the aforementioned IGN article, they stated that most US gamers wouldn't know about the album. That's a bit of a shame, isn't it? It's one of the most artful albums I've ever seen. If you have the opportunity, give it a listen. It's only about an hour and a half. And the chances of coming away from the experience without appreciating it on some level are 1,000,000 to 1, I'd say. Thanks for listening.